Your 20s are financial quicksand. And the dangerous part isn't that you're doing something obviously wrong. It's that everything around you looks normal. Everyone else seems to be doing the same things, making the same choices, and telling themselves the same stories. You watch people your age finance cars they can't really afford, take on student loans for degrees they aren't even sure they'll use, and normalize spending habits that quietly keep them broke. Bigger apartments, nicer phones, constant convenience. Everything looks like progress on the surface, but nobody looks calm. Meanwhile, you're working hard, checking your bank account, and wondering why it feels like you're barely moving forward. You start asking yourself uncomfortable questions. Am I behind? Is this just what adulthood feels like? Or am I missing something important? Here's the truth most people don't hear early enough. The choices you make with money in your 20s don't just affect your finances today. They quietly lock in the direction of your entire future. This decade determines whether your 30s are spent building momentum or repeating the same stress with bigger numbers and higher stakes. Most people get this completely backwards. They treat their 20s as a time to spend freely and assume they'll get serious about money later. But money doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Compound interest doesn't pause. Habits don't magically change because you hit a new decade. The people who escape the financial hamster wheel understand something most people miss. Your 20s are when small, unsexy decisions quietly compound into massive outcomes later. A dollar invested early doesn't just grow, it multiplies. A dollar spent on something that depreciates doesn't just disappear, it steals future options. What I want to walk you through are 7 decisions that consistently show up in the lives of people who build real financial freedom while they're still young enough to enjoy it. These aren't status moves. They won't make you look successful, but over time, they change everything. The first decision is investing in a side hustle that builds real skills. This doesn't feel like a purchase, which is why most people underestimate it. A side hustle almost always requires upfront investment. Tools, software, equipment, education. Sometimes it's just buying back time so you can focus on what actually matters. In your 20s, this can be one of the highest return investments available to you because your biggest advantage right now isn't money, it's flexibility. You probably don't have a mortgage. You likely don't have kids. Your financial obligations are relatively low, which means you can experiment. If something doesn't work, you recover quickly. If it does work, it can change your entire trajectory. Most people make the mistake of chasing whatever looks profitable online instead of building on their existing strengths. They jump into businesses they don't understand, copying strategies they can't sustain. The smarter approach is simpler. Start where you already have leverage. If you're good with technology, build there. If you understand cars, fitness, design, writing, sales, or systems, start there. The goal isn't to build the perfect business. It's to take your skills seriously and see what happens when you give them consistent effort. The second decision is investing early in broad market index funds. This is where time becomes unfair. If you invest even a few $100s a month into a total market index fund starting in your early 20s, the math becomes absurd over decades. You don't need genius. You don't need perfect timing. You just need consistency. Start early, and small contributions turn into massive outcomes. Wait 10 years, and the exact same effort produces dramatically less. Index funds are boring. They won't make you feel smart. They won't give you exciting stories. But over long periods, they quietly outperform most strategies with far less stress. The real secret here isn't picking the right fund, it's automation. Money invested before you ever see it is money you never learn to spend. Time does the heavy lifting while you live your life. The third decision is traveling strategically while you're young. This isn't about luxury or posting photos, it's about perspective. When you navigate unfamiliar places, solve problems without comfort, and adapt in environments you don't control, you build confidence that carries into every area of life. Travel teaches you that there are many ways to live well. It expands what you believe is possible. It often introduces you to people and ideas that quietly reshape your path years later. The smart approach is intentional, using reward systems, paying balances in full, never turning experiences into long-term debt. The return on travel doesn't show up immediately, but over time, it changes how you think and what you're willing to attempt. The fourth decision is investing in education that increases your value. Not expensive degrees, skills, books, courses, training that actually raises your ability to solve problems and produce results. Knowledge compounds for decades. A single book can change how you think. A legitimate course can increase your income permanently. The key is avoiding people selling lifestyles instead of substance. Your brain is more adaptable in your 20s than it will ever be again. Skills learned now stay with you for life. This is one of the few investments that can't be taken away from you. The fifth decision is using real estate intentionally when the numbers make sense. Real estate builds wealth through appreciation, leverage, and cash flow, but only when approached carefully. The goal isn't buying as much house as possible, it's reducing housing costs while building equity. Strategies like shared living, house hacking, or rental income can completely change the math. When someone else helps pay your mortgage, you accelerate wealth without increasing stress. This path isn't passive, but when done correctly, it creates flexibility few assets can match. The sixth decision is choosing cheap, reliable transportation. Transportation is a tool, not an identity. Expensive car payments early in life quietly destroy future wealth. Cars depreciate. Payments compound in the wrong direction. A modest, reliable vehicle lowers your required income. And when your required income drops, your freedom increases. Invest the difference over decades and the gap becomes massive. Not because of the car you bought, but because of the one you didn't. Fewer fixed payments give you more control over your time and choices. The seventh decision is investing in your health. This is the most overlooked factor in long-term success. Energy, focus, and resilience determine how well you execute everything else. Poor health doesn't just cost medical bills. It costs consistency, opportunity, and momentum. You can't outinvest burnout. Sleep, nutrition, and movement aren't luxuries. They're performance multipliers. Without them, even the best financial plan collapses under stress. Your health determines whether you can sustain effort over years, which is how wealth is actually built. Here's what ties all of this together. These decisions reinforce each other. Skills support income. Income supports investing. Low expenses create flexibility. Health sustains effort. The biggest mistake isn't choosing wrong. It's trying to do everything at once. Momentum comes from sequencing, not perfection. Your 20s will pass whether you're intentional or not. The only question is whether they compound for you or against you. Real success isn't about looking rich. It's about having options. It's about waking up with control over your time instead of obligations controlling you. Start with one deliberate decision. 10 years from now, you'll either thank yourself or wish you had. If this helped you think differently about money, subscribe for more grounded, real-world financial thinking. No hype, no shortcuts, just systems that compound over time. I'll see you in the next one.